Okay, 15 minutes. This is really hard, isn't it? I'm sorry I got here late. I was stuck outside Tesco for about half an hour, just round the corner. It's a real privilege to be here, and to be labelled the headliner is a bit humbling, to be honest, especially looking at what you've all been doing. Imagine if you were a teacher who had a time machine 15 years ago, and you thought, right, I've been with my class, I've worked out what rules we need to travel in time, I've got that sorted with them, now I'm getting my time machine, I'm going to go to something called a Teach Me. And I come here from 1998, and I see the things that have been going on. My head would be fried as a result. I've come all the way from Barnsley in South Yorkshire professionally to come and talk to you. And my thing, if I've got a thing, is engagement. My thing at the moment is working with children in special settings who have given up on school. Children who are very vulnerable because of lots of reasons, but mainly because they want to smash the place up. So I've been doing a lot of curriculum stuff around engagement with the most extreme children. So I'm gonna talk about stuff, and I need your permission to just ramble and not be particularly focused. You've all got focuses here. You've got film club, go animate, 3D printed, and everyone's been saying how brilliant it is. It makes me anxious. Is it okay if I ramble? Yeah, ramble away. Come on. I know it's late and that. We've got people here who've got Ofsted in. Come on. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Because I'm very conscious of this whole time thing. But I'm going to stop banging on about that and being obsessed with it. I'm going to smash it up. I'm going to let the monkey out of the jar. Do you ever do that with your kids? You know, I'm going to let the monkey out of the jar, kids. I know I've got my plan, but you've just asked that amazing question. And I'm giving myself permission to get away from the plan because that question was great. I've just had you all actually making PowerPoints in year 8 because I'm an ICT teacher in my head in this story. I'm an ICT teacher and I'm getting you to do PowerPoints, inappropriate PowerPoints about Nelson Mandela. You're using large yellow bubble writing and I'm talking to you like you've never made a PowerPoint before. And I've got you answering questions about when was he born, why did he go to prison. I've got some really boring questions up. And you cocky little sod, you've got your hand up, haven't you? And now you're clicking your fingers and I'm losing my rag because you're a button presser. You're trying to wind me up. So I go, what? And you say, sir, was Nelson Mandela an activist or a terrorist? But that question just winds me right up and I send you out. When in fact, it's the best question. I saw that in Rotherham, that story. That's what happened. Kid got sent out for asking the best question ever. And the teacher needed some courage to walk through the door that kid opened. I'm interested in that because it didn't happen by accident. I say that some learning can happen accidentally. I think actually we have outcomes we can't predict, if you want me to use the lingo. Up here I've got some pictures. I've got Ofsted there, that's Ofsted. Got Michael Gove. He's good, isn't he? I've got no time, I'm obsessed with it. That's why I'm going to try and avoid any bullshit with you now. So I'm from Barnsley, South Yorkshire. I went there in 1996 to go and teach, having taught in Leafy, Wakefield. I don't know if you've been to Wakefield. Some people say Wakefield isn't Leafy, but it was Leafy when you go to Barnsley. Is there anyone from Barnsley? Barnsley's ace. Barnsley is fab, and I absolutely love it. And the interesting thing at the moment in Barnsley is all of the secondary schools, all of the secondary provision got BSF, got Building Schools for the Future. We've got Cathedrals of Learning colleagues. But if you said to them, some of those colleagues, some of them in Barnsley, hey, let's do a Teach Me, they'd go running to the hills. They'd be frightened by that. That would be frightening. So I'm sort of easing them in gently with this. Just easing them in gently. Saying some of our kids, you know, they can really do it. They can really surprise us. When I went in '96, you know this character, don't you? You know this, don't you? Billy Casper from Kes. Absolutely essential reading. People forget that that book was written by an English teacher. And he was writing about his day-to-day. When it came to make the film, they said to him, listen, we need someone to play the PE teacher. And he said, I've got just a bloke, his head of PE. Brian Glover, yeah? Brian Glover. Now there's a bloke who represented resilience, he represented the adaptability that we want to see in our learners. Brian Glover was a wrestler, did you know that? He was Leon Harris, the man from Paris. Fantastic. Fantastic. I don't know why I'm talking about Brian Glover, but it's just, he's a model to me, that old actor. But he was a screenwriter, he was a script writer, he went on stage with the RSC, he was at the National Theatre, he was someone who could really adapt. Di Bradley, who played Billy Casper, he couldn't, because he was made famous by this role. Do you remember him in the film? Do you remember that terrific performance in the film? What did they do with him? They took him to London and gave him elocution lessons and destroyed him. They tried to fit him in the box, fit him in the shape, in that mould that they thought was the right thing. They tried to teach him. That's the best film ever made. We're clear on that, aren't we? You can watch it on ITV4 probably tonight. Jaws. This is the moment where Chief Brody has been chucking fish heads in the water, trying to attract a great white shark. And he sees the giant rubber shark emerges from the water 1 hour 4 minutes in. 1 hour 4 minutes in. What does he say at that point? Thank you, you've won a caravan. You're going to need a bigger boat. And I just think as teachers, to be honest, just looking at, I read that first list and I'm stressed out. God, there's so much to keep up with. There's so much to keep up with here. I need a bigger boat, never mind him, and it's something I'm interested in. There's so much for us to put up with, so much for us to keep up with. I'm frightened by it. I'm frightened by it. But it's our job, I guess, and we're scrutinised with it, we're made accountable by it. We're victims of it almost. Just something to, this picture I had up on my wall when I was a drama teacher. Full-time, 16 years, English and drama teacher. My job was to get kids passionate about learning, and that's your job as well, isn't it? And I don't know if we've got any English teachers in. Secondary? Do you remember the GC? Do you remember Seamus Heaney's agricultural poetry about his father? How do we get kids passionate about that? I found that really difficult for Barnsley kids, getting the Barnsley kids to be bothered about that. And that botheredness is something that concerns me. How could we get our kids to really hook into what we were trying to teach them? I've got the coverage, but I'm going to have to do it creatively, because my drama kids in year 9 will walk in and say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? That was engagement in my drama lessons sometimes. Just a kid saying, why do we have to do this? Because it's on the curriculum. I would ask my drama team, we're quite a successful team, and I'd say, have we been brave? Have we been brave today? We'd sit and have a brew. Do you remember sitting and having a brew with your colleagues? Those are the days. Do you remember? You'd sit and have a brew, and you'd be saying, how's it been today? No, it's all right. That was good, this wasn't, and this we need to work on. Well, with my team, I'd say, have we been brave? Brave is an acronym. Let me do RAVE first. I'd ask my team, have we made the learning relevant today? That's a learning being relevant. Does it make sense to those kids in front of me? It might make total sense to some kids in leafy Richmond in West London, but does it make sense to him in front of me, who's got nothing, who's dropped off in the morning by his dad, and his dad's struggling, and he hasn't got shoes? Is it making sense to him? Relevant. The A is academic. Is what we're doing academic? Are we staying true to the integrity of the coverage, the integrity of the learning? I'm mindful of that. Are we doing that? Is it vocational? Am I teaching kids compromise, sharing? You know, like they do in early years. That's what they do in early years. They teach kids how to be adults in early years. It's brilliant. Then we stop. We allow kids to be imaginative in primary. We go, oh yeah, you must be imaginative. By the time we get to secondary, by the time they come to me and say, don't be imaginative, for goodness sake, just answer the bleeding question. And the kids are saying, just tell me what I need to know, sir, because if I pass this, I get 50 quid and I'm going to Malaga. That's vocational. E is evaluatory, assessment for learning. Best thing ever. Assessment for learning, I love it. It's more than lollipop sticks. Let's get that right. It's more than that. It's getting kids talking to each other. It's critique. Have you seen that Ron Berger stuff? Ron Berger's critique. If you're not familiar with it, have a look at it. It's got 3 principles. Teach the kids to be kind to each other, to be helpful, and to be specific. I really like your drawing. I really like your drawing. I really like your drawing. That's me being kind. Have you thought of making it bigger? That's me being helpful. Why don't you colour it in green? That's specific. They're training the kids to do that. What a lovely concept. We can put that through your if you're secondary, put that through your secondary filter. See the good in it. What could that look like with your classes? How could that encourage your children to speak more, to talk more, and do proper pupil voice? Not those school councils, although I do like school councils. But pupil voice is actually what kids are talking about in the lesson. Oh, that was rave. The B is it buzzing? If you look at the Ofsted outstanding criteria for teaching and learning, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about things buzzing. You can think of nicer words to use. I'm thinking of that, and it makes brave. And that's what we used to sit around talking about. And sometimes we'd sit there going, no, I haven't been brave today, it was terrible. I hate that scheme of work. Well, let's change it then. Let's change it. If it's not working, let's change it. Let's be creative. Let's use structured creativity. Creativity. Someone threw a pen at me once at Twilight. I'm here at the front banging on. Someone went, another buzzword! Chucked the pen like that. The pen flew past me. It was like the Matrix. I had to do that. Some bloke in a tank top at the front. Some bloke in a tank top. He was like, another buzzword! I'm sick of them! He needed to chill out. That's the first thing he needed to do. But he saw creativity as an add-on. And I still get teachers saying to me, and you'll believe this. They say to me, you see I'm proper Russian. They say to me, oh, I'd love to be creative. Well, do it then. It's not dancing. It's not acting. Bloody hell, just get on with it. If your kids aren't engaged, what are you doing about it? If he's always kicking off, if she's always kicking off, if they're always kicking off, what are you doing about it? Are you planning for them? Are you planning for those kids? I spent about 5 years having rings run round me by children because I never planned for them. I just did the plan for me. Didn't do the plan for them. How am I doing? I've got 3 minutes. Yeah, that's fine. I'm about a third of the way through. Some of my children would come in. I put a picture of an African child starving to death on the wall and on the board, and the kids would come in and start laughing as a defence mechanism. And me and some colleagues were having the same experience. So we said, what are we going to do about that? Because there's no point in teaching anything else if that's their reaction. They're not laughing because it's funny. They're laughing because they don't know what else to do. So we need to think about how we're going to move the children from being streetwise, which your children may be, my children were, to actually be having some world wisdom about them. And the way we can do that is through a curriculum. In the special school that I'm doing a lot of work with, we've done that. We've got rid of the behaviour policy. These are the most nightmare kids in the world. We've got rid of the behaviour policy because we've got a cracking teaching and learning policy. And we've got teachers who are teaching the children about the world, and not just stuff that we're being told to teach. They're looking at the coverage and thinking, how can I make that make sense to the children in front of me? That's a landscaped garden. Where's the curriculum in a landscaped garden? Can you just have a quick chat very quickly? What curriculum could we tap into? If you're going to have to teach landscaped gardening tomorrow, what curriculum can you tap into?
Technology.
Oh, very good. You've got the answer everything, haven't you? Did you get the answer everything? You'll have got to everything. If I said I'll be back in 20 minutes and offer a brew, you would have said, Hywel, you can do anything. You can hit the whole curriculum there, and you can. Primary colleagues sitting here, and I know there's a few of you, that's what you do. What I like to do is get the kids to chew over the learning. So they've done the maths, they've done angles, they've done light, mirrors and all this, and I'll say to them, I'll go into the class, and I'm a novice primary teacher, but I love working with these little kids as a secondary teacher. I'll go in and say, look, the old people's home down the road, what's it called? And the kid will say, Maple House. Maple House. The old people's home down the road has got a patch of land 5 metres by 8 metres, and they want us to design a garden of reflection. How exciting. A garden of reflection. Hands go up. Do you remember when you're secondaries, do you remember when kids used to do it? They don't do it anymore. They go like that. The same kids 5 years ago were going, you know. What's a So there's something we can talk about there. These kids, big paper, fat pens, low technology. They start putting those, do you know, travelators that you get at airports? These lads were designing basically 5 metres by 8 metres of a travelator. It was fantastic. This boy said, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Roberts. I said, yes. And he said, can I have a statue? And I said, yes. Now, me ingrained practice is one of, yes, giving permission and stepping away, whereas I've got to keep working it. Yes, is it going to be an old statue or a new statue? And the kid, even though he's young and nice and naive and full of imagination, he's like a bit cheesed off with me because I'm pushing him a little bit. He goes, old! And I say, why? And he says, because it'll have seen more. And I think, bloody great, that's what it's about. And then I go back to me year 9, why are we doing this? That is about urgency, and I'm asking you, I've got so much going on in my head, I'm going to get in my car and start crying in about an hour and a half, because I haven't got through anything. But where is the urgency in your lessons? We start introducing urgency and importance when we start talking about exams, but we can introduce urgency and importance very easily by saying a representative of the Old People's Home will be here in 20 minutes to look at your designs. That's what kids are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So 5 times 8, it's just maths. So we can do that. I can do that, sir, no problem. But 5 metres by 8 metres is actually important. How big is that patch of grass? Do we want crazy paving? Oh gosh, crazy paving. Where's the maths in crazy paving? And so on. I went to the University of Cumbria. I'm not naming it. Oh, I've just named it. University of Cumbria. I just throw away comment to all these students who are going to want to teach. I went, 3-part lesson's dead. Anyway, and I cracked on. I got loads of tweets, emails and everything going, what? What do you mean it's dead? That's what we're learning about. And I'm thinking, oh cripes. I don't know if you're having that experience. MASH massively informs my practice. This picture, who teaches music? Great. So you're here teaching music. Nobody in particular. Music teacher said, this is all very well, I use images a lot, metaphor images. If in doubt, just have a pen drive of great images you can put up in front of kids and say, what questions have you got? Great thing to do while you're messing with your Sims, or you're messing with your register and everything's failing you. You just put a picture up and say, ask me some questions, or ask the picture some questions. This is a member of the Ku Klux Klan who's been shot in the stomach and has been rescued by black nurses. A very powerful image. I wouldn't use it with year 1. I'd use it with secondary kids though. And this musician said, I'm going to use that, and she emailed me back and said, this is what I did. I showed them this picture, I gave them the history, and metaphorically with the camera we pulled out and we saw the big story. They saw about the civil rights movement. They did Rosa Parks and so on. And they were doing music because we were going to get to protest song. That's where they were going. She played them Billie Holiday's Strange Fruit. You know that lovely jazz standard about the lynch mobs and the black people hanging from trees and so on. She then introduced them to Bob Dylan. These kids haven't done it before. They were listening to Bob Dylan and appreciating it and hearing the stories behind the songs. And then it was into ska music, and then the special AKA Free Nelson Mandela. She did it, she got them all doing it. And then she did Billy Bragg and all that wonderful, more contemporary protest music, Tracy Chapman and so on, until she got to the point with her year 9s where she had to say, now you find something that you care about and you write about it. And all they had to do was look out the window and start thinking about their own lives. That picture suddenly makes sense to them. They can project themselves onto it. I'm going to finish. You know that picture? I went into it. You know that picture? Some of you will. It's bear hunt. We're going on a bear hunt. We're going to get a big one. We're not scared. Mike wrote an absolutely wonderful text. I went into an internal exclusion unit in a secondary school where they put 4 bad boys who they didn't know what to do with. They were there, and I went in, and I said to them, I've been asked to go in and get some writing from them. I had 2 hours. I went in and said, hey, can you take your coats off, please? And they just looked out of the window. Yes, they do. Please, can you take your coats off? Almost begging. No, they're not going to. I'm looking out and anxiously for any help. There was none there. I got the book out. Now, this book I know very well, because I've got Brian Blessed reading it. On a CD. I don't know if you can imagine that. It's quite hectic when you first listen to it. Your brain starts melting. I read a book, and what I did was I turned my drama up to number 11. If you're a scientist, turn your science up to number 11. If you're PE, turn your PE up to number 11. I turned my drama up. I said, can I read this book to you? And they were like, knock yourself out. Well, here you go. And I read it. And the act of dark magic I used was I turned the book round while I was still reading it and I didn't look at the words. And they were engrossed by that, year 8. And then I remembered a few things. Year 8s are still children. In spite of the behaviour sometimes, they're still children. It also occurred to me they hadn't been read to for a long time. I finished reading it, and the hands went straight up, which I thought was nice, and this boy said, "Can you read it again?" So I said, "Well, if you take your coats off." And they did.